This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we're recapping an eventful New England Division III Indoor Track and Field Championships, featuring student athletes quickly moving up in the national rankings. Plus, the men's squash team ended the CSA Team Nationals on a high note against Navy, and the softball season is here. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The lacrosse teams held their home openers back-to-back Wednesday at Garcelon Field. After the men fell to Babson 12-11 in overtime, the women earned a 14-10 victory over the Beavers. After the game, we caught up with junior goalkeeper Rachael Deptula, who made 8 saves in the victory.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think my D played really, really well. They killed it. With their slides, that's something that we've been working on a lot, just like extra help, especially on Babson likes to go behind the net and kind of come up and feed into the middle, and so we did a really great job of sliding and making sure we covered that middle girl. And we had pretty good clears too, I think, just getting open and getting the ball quickly up the field.
And this year as a junior, it seems like you're the starter in goal. The last couple of years, you're getting minutes, but you're the backup. So what's it like now, being number one kind of?
It's different. This is my first time. I mean, my freshman year, I also broke my foot, so I was out. So this is like really exciting for me. And our team is awesome, and I'm so excited to be playing for them. And I think it's going to be a good season. So
the minutes you did get last year,
yes.
What did those kind of teach you, and what did you learn from that going into this season, kind of?
I definitely learned to kind of be prepared for anything, because I as the backup, I didn't really have a lot of warm-up time. So especially going into the second half, I have like 5 minutes for shots to warm up. So I think just being on my toes and always being prepared for anything that's coming, that's one thing I definitely learned.
Both lacrosse teams fell to Wesleyan on Saturday, but the men get a chance to bounce back this Wednesday against Keene State before conference games against Trinity for both teams this Saturday. The track and field teams performed well at the New England Division III Indoor Championships, with the women placing 7th out of 26 teams and the men finishing 6th out of 24 schools. Junior captain John Rex won the New England Championship in the shot put with a career best throw of 51 feet, 0.75 inches. He finished second in the weight throw with a career best effort of 62 feet, 6.5 inches, moving up to 7th place on Bates' all-time performance list. He now ranks 6th in the country in the weight throw. Senior captain Brendan Donahue also provided a big Bates highlight, scoring a career-high 4,861 points to place 3rd in the heptathlon. Donahue notched a career-best high jump of 6 feet, 3.5 inches, and a career-best 1,000-meter run, and led the field in the pole vault at 13 feet, 7.25 inches. Donahue's score moves him into 2nd place on Bates' all-time performance list in the event. Donahue, our male Bobcat of the week, and Rex joined the Bobcast to recap the weekend.
I haven't had the best season in the shot put in terms of practice, so a big focus is just getting to the meet and performing and just trusting that, the stuff that I was doing in practice would be beneficial and serve me well in a meet setting. I haven't thrown the actual shot put since preseason. So we've been doing a lot of light implement throwing, and I've been working with the trainers really closely to subsidize the pain in my wrist and just loosen up and get it nice and rested for the meets. And so I've been doing very limited throwing, so it definitely was really awesome to PR. And I just think that I've been trying to hit that 50-foot barrier for a long time, and to go 51 and when New England's as coming as the 3rd seed was like pretty surreal moment. And I just, my first throw of the series, I had it was a pretty good opener, probably one of the best openers I've had. But it was like 49, and then Fresh just gave me an adjustment, and I just decided to trust him and go with it, and it ended up serving me well. And my next throw was a little farther, and then my next throw was a lot farther, and then I backed it up with another 50-plus foot throw, so it was a pretty good feeling. Yeah, I never thought I'd be a shot put champion before I was a weight throw champion, but hey, anything's possible, and I think that just believing in yourself and just taking advantage of the energy of the competition can go a long way.
And then Brendan, I know you've been working those multi-events, the heptathlon, career best in points for you, 2nd now all-time at Bates. What events in particular do you think were working well for you last weekend?
I kind of found my groove in the high jump for once. And shot put definitely. We've been doing a secret drill, which I will not leak the actual name of it, but it's helped a lot with making sure I have a long left arm, and also just getting lower out of the back of the circle. And so that made a huge difference in my throw this weekend. So I broke 40 for the first time, and I know in terms of Johnny, that's a very tiny mark, but for me, it was a good mark to put out there. And then overall, passing David Hardison was kind of an exciting moment for me because he's someone I've looked up to since my early days meeting him my sophomore year. And that's kind of just what this program is all about, is having role models. Even if you never were teammates with them, you still can look up to them. So definitely.
John, how proud were you of him with the shot put there?
I was pumped. Like watching Brendan along with Liam and Evan, who are the other heptathletes, compete was just pretty inspiring because they were all PRing. They were all doing super well. And, watching Brendan kill it in the hep really motivated me to also have a day as well. And I think the best way for a team or for an individual to do well is when their team does well. And I think that energy really translates to other athletes on the team, and Brendan's a really good leader. And yeah, it was super fun watching him compete. I was sitting with his parents, and we were just going crazy at every high jump. Like the high jump specifically was super impressive because we actually missed the shot put because we were I missed it because I was on the way down to the meet, but we got there in time for the high jump, and it was super fun to watch Brendan kill it and have a lifetime PR.
Yeah, we talked about this last time you two were on the show together, I think, but people may not remember, but you two knew each other in high school, and you've said before, John, Brendan's the reason you came to Bates, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I worked my first summer job at an ice cream store, and so that was Brendan's first job as well, and I walked in, and we just hit it off right away, and he invited me on his friend's boat, and then the rest is history. We became best friends, and told me to reach out to Coach Farashidi, I did. I ended up at Bates, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you'll both be going to indoor nationals, of course. And so, Brendan, for you, between now and indoor nationals, what's going to be the approach here? Obviously, multi-events. There's, I'm sure, many different ways you could go about preparing for this, right?
Yeah, this far in the season, it's mostly maintenance, but we do a lot of tempo work because my 1,000 is still absolutely horrible. But in terms of actual lifting and general pliable muscle, we do an emphasis a lot on pull-ups and push-ups, and not really maximizing strength right now, but more maintaining. And so week ahead is more just focusing on the little things, in vault in particular, cleaning up my top whether it's my bottom arm, releasing my bottom arm at the top of the vault. So it's these kind of small changes that need to be made that can make the difference between a 4,800 point meet versus 5,200. So,
well, you mentioned the 1,000. What makes that so tough for you and personally?
I came into college with very little to no running experience. I was always the guy who would just show up at a meet and jump, and that would be about it. But having to kind of go into my comfort zone and having to run fast was something I was not accustomed to. So Fresh has put the emphasis on me getting faster, and Coach Curtis has done an excellent job with my speed development. So, props to them for everything they've done in that department.
And John, of course, you'll be going to nationals in the weight throw. This is an event where I think you're ranked, 6th in the country right now? Is that somewhere around there? But you were second in New England with another PR for you there. You've been PRing quite frequently this year in the weight throw, it seems like. What's the next step for you in this training?
I had a good shot put throw this weekend.
Yeah.
And although it was a good shot put throw, I have been battling a wrist injury.
Right.
So I'm just going to call it on that for the rest of the season until outdoors, and load it back up again outdoors, come back healthier and stronger. And I'm very thankful to have had a season full of PRs. Anytime you PR, it's a good day. So I'm very thankful to have it PR'd in the shot put, because to be honest, in the beginning of the season when I first realized this injury, I didn't foresee myself throwing this far at all. And I've had to adjust a lot of my training around my wrist injury, and whether that's no snatching, just doing clean pulls instead of cleans. I've had to tweak a lot of my lifting programs, but I think everything happens for a reason. As interesting as that sounds, I think that this injury actually helps me realize my weaknesses and sort of attack them. And I think that what I've been doing in preparation this season has been a lot more effective for me as an athlete. And I think the most effective thing for me as an athlete is there's this quote by Ted Williams that says, if you don't think too good, don't think too much. And that's my favorite quote, because I really do believe in that quote. I've had a lot of good performances so far in my career, but unfortunately, when it counted, I couldn't quite put it together. By that I mean at nationals, and so this time around, I definitely want to just be more mentally there, and I think being just not letting nerves get to you and instead turning that nervous energy into something positive can go a long way and can really change your entire performance. Throwing is, it's so precise, and therefore it starts with the mind, and the mind connects to the body. So I think that's super important, and Coach Farashidyan has been just awesome this season, and resting me and being strategic about performances and meets, and which meets to enter me and which meets not to. And he's just an amazing coach, and he really, really cares about his athletes, which is a really good feeling. And he's done a great job with that, and it's showing. So.
Yeah, you touched on nationals, and Brendan, I'm sure you're coming in with some extra motivation this year also. I mean, you had a great first day. I know last year's at outdoors, and that injury unfortunately slowed you down there, but what'd you learn from that experience, though? I mean, outdoors are now obviously different events, fewer events for indoors, but
yeah, I mean, the major takeaway is those Wisconsin boys are going to bring it. They're some big country folk, I'll tell you that
every
much.
Event.
But, and it's in every event. It's in the throws, it's in the jumps, it's in the distance. And so being exposed to guys who kind of committed themselves to a sport is kind of it's an awesome atmosphere to be around, and it kind of leads itself into all events, and it also makes you think more critically about how you're training. And so right now, the top three for the heptathlon are three guys from the same school. And there's something to be said about that, is because they're doing their training right. And so going to NCAAs once again and having the experience under my belt, I definitely don't have as much nerves. And the excitement's still there, but it's a different type of an excitement. So I'm excited for the opportunity, and hopefully it coalesces into a celebration of this season. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
On the women's side, junior captain Amanda Kaufman took second place in the 60-meter hurdles, racing to the finish in 8.97 seconds, a new career best. And she helped Bates place third in the 4x400 relay. And Amanda Kaufman is our female Bobcat of the week. PR for you in the 60-meter hurdles. This is a competitive event. You're going to be running it again this weekend at Tufts, but tell us about how it went there at New England as you continue to chop a few hundredths of a second off at a time, right?
Yeah, that seems to be the trend, is a few every week. So at New England's, it was great. It was obviously a PR, which is super exciting. Looking back on the video and just off of feel and talking with coaches, I actually had a pretty terrible start. I think my coach and I kind of postulated that I was actually sixth over the first hurdle. And I kind of caught up along the way throughout the race. He was actually a little surprised that I PR'd after such a bad start after looking at the video, which was kind of funny. So I'm hoping to kind of improve on that this week at Tufts, and maybe shave a few more off and see what happens as far as nationals.
Well, yeah, it's amazing, because there's 60 meters, right? There's almost no margin for error, I imagine, right?
And it kind of goes to show how something as small as that can throw off your entire race.
But for you, it didn't. What do you think allowed you to recover over the next few steps, I guess?
I don't know. I think it just was a slow start. Nothing really bad, just slow. And I'm lucky this year, and kind of like all of my training thus far has kind of prepared me for that. I'm a lot stronger and faster than I was coming in as a freshman. So I think probably attributed that to a little bit more lifting than I did in high school here. So just a little bit more explosive and stronger, which hopefully maybe is what allowed me to catch up and get running with the Amherst girl.
And then you touched on that, actually. Are there certain athletes you're focused on as your competition kind of to start, or are you zeroed in on what you're doing?
I think it's not necessarily like competition for me. I always run better when there's someone faster than me, and I was really lucky to have that at this meet with a girl from Amherst, and there's also a really fast Williams girl in the race as well. So I kind of focus on just staying with them and focusing on that and catching up with them, and I think that helped a lot. When I started off really behind, I realized that I need to kick on the jets, catch up with her, and get back in the race.
60-meter hurdles, I think before you were here at Bates, but Allison Hill set the record here. How close are you to her at this point?
Not that close. She was an incredible hurdler. I actually got a really cool opportunity to meet her. She came to the state meet this year, and it was a very fangirl moment. I think ever since I got into Bates, I definitely followed her and looked up to her a lot. The coaches obviously talk about her all the time when I'm doing drills. So that was really, really awesome to meet her, and she was so nice. We talked a little bit about kind of like the barrier of breaking 9 and how that's a big thing in your hurdle career. So really, really great. Big footsteps to follow, definitely. But sights are set on that time. Hopefully I can get there. We'll see. It's a long way to go from here, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I remember when she broke 9 seconds for the first time. It was a big deal. How did it feel for you? You did that this year, right?
Yes, yeah. I think it was a big deal for me just because that had been weighing on me for a long time now. And as we saw last season, I was really, really close, and the same sort of thing. I would get a little bit closer every weekend. I just kind of ran out of meets last season and then ended up being injured for outdoor. So I think I really was even more hungry for it this year coming off of the injury and knowing that I was so close last season.
Switching into relay, 4x400 will be running at Last Chance as well after a strong performance at New England's. Tell us about this relay team you're part of here.
Yeah, I absolutely love this relay team. All the girls on the team are some of my closest friends also. So it's really great to have that environment with such a kind of a stressful situation when we don't really know if we're guaranteed a spot at the moment. So I just feel really lucky to be surrounded by such incredible women, all incredible athletes. So I think we kind of look at it as running for each other, and it's never one of our responsibility for the entire team. It's a complete team effort. And I think that mentality makes it a little bit less scary when we're going into kind of a high-stakes meet.
Are you the only one on the 4x4 who's been to nationals before?
Paige, I believe,
Paige
actually went.
That's
yeah.
Right. That's right. So
but the other two, this would be their first time. And I would absolutely love to have that experience with them and share that with them.
Yeah, Paige returning to the team after spending last year abroad. That's been huge, hasn't it? It's
been great. All of us are so excited that she's back and really, really excited to watch what she's been able to do individually as well. We all love watching her run. She's such a beautiful runner. She never looks flustered ever, and she just kind of goes out there and does her thing. So I'm just really, really honored that I get to run with her and the other two as well.
Did you compete at Tufts last year, the Last Chance, or did you?
Yeah, so last year for Last Chance, my focus was more hurdles. So I actually was not on the DMR at Tufts last year.
Right.
I did a 4x4, but it was not as high stakes. It was just kind of going for one last good time at the end of the season. But yeah, I'm excited for it, though, this year.
How does this meet? I mean, it's got to be much different than the other meets you're at, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Everyone is really stressed out for the most part because most people who are at this meet are a bubble team or really, really close, but not quite to qualifying. So everyone's just out there trying to do their best and get any bit closer that they can to qualifying. So that can be stressful, but I'm trying not to focus on the stress and just kind of being more excited to just go out and execute a good race. And if it happens to be my last race of the season, that's okay. Just hoping that'll be a good one.
Well, and you have outdoors coming up regardless,
yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
There you go. Amanda Kaufman, Female Bobcat of the Week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The number 27 nationally ranked women's tennis team won back-to-back matches this weekend, defeating Wheaton College 8-1 in Merrill Gym on Friday, and following that up with a 6-3 victory at Mount Holyoke on Saturday. Junior Haley Washington prevailed both at number 3 doubles and number 2 singles on Friday. Then she improved her record to 3-0 on the weekend with another win at number 3 doubles on Saturday. Now she joins the Bobcast on the phone.
Yeah, it was definitely amazing playing on the home court. It was great energy because, we had our friends and our family that were able to come out in addition to being able to have the freshmen play for their first time on the home court, and also felt really good to just be playing at home and just have the energy of the home court while we were playing.
And then you teamed up with Isabel Rovinsky there at doubles. What is she like as a doubles partner?
Isabel and I actually dabbled around in doubles last year when we were on our training trip in Florida, but I really enjoyed playing with her. She's a senior this year, so she's been through the tennis world a little bit longer than me, so she knows some things that I don't. But we definitely work really well with each other. We're able to move really well off each other's balls, and I think it's going to be a great partnership this year.
What did the Division II opponents you played down in Florida help you prepare, you think, for this first home, for your first home match, first couple of matches against Division III teams? Because obviously that's some stiff competition to start the spring season, right?
Yeah, definitely. Our first match that we had down in Florida was actually against the University of Tampa, and that team was pretty strong. It was a D2 team, and that was our first match as a team together. And I honestly think that everybody did a great job. I think that although they were a D2 team, we did things that we were stronger than them in a lot of aspects. For example, we've been running 2 miles for our conditioning class that we've had, and I think that really helped us with our endurance, and we were able to stick in the points a lot longer than their team was able to, which was seen, when we had our 30-ball rallies, and we were able to stay in that without breathing heavy and breaking a sweat. But that they were very intense, and they had been playing a little bit longer than us, though, so they definitely had their tactics a little bit more together, I would say. But I think that we did a great job fighting and persevering through those matches, and everybody really left blood on the court and just tried their best. It was really great to see all up and down throughout the course.
Excellent. And then what's it like to see that number 27 national ranking by the Bobcats name here early in the season? I mean, it's cool to see the rest of the country kind of seeing how improved and how good the women's team could possibly be this year, right?
Yeah, I think it's honestly amazing. Everybody's working really hard, and I think that we will be moving up in the rankings nationally, I would say. In my opinion, I think that everybody's really working towards their goals personally, and once you're working towards your goals personally, you're able to see it collectively as a group when we thrive and we're doing well.
And then tell us about, you mentioned some of the first years. I see Joanna Atwater's getting a lot of opportunities in the lineup, playing up and down at singles a little bit. Tell us about her and maybe some of the other first years, what their impact has been so far.
Yeah, Joanna Atwater, she's from New Jersey. She's a first year, and she is a very strong player. I enjoyed playing with her. We played next to each other when we played the University of Tampa. She was at 5 singles, and I was at 6. And she's just a very strong player. I think that she has strong shots, and I think that she's going to do very well here at Bates. And she was, she's going to contribute a lot to the team. And then all the freshmen are doing well, really. Another freshman is Laura Littlefield. She's also working really hard to work, and because there's a lot of freshmen, so they're all working really hard to be in lineup, and that's the goal when you're a freshman, especially when there's such a large group. We are teammates, but they're competing against each other a little bit. They're challenging each other because there's only so many spots that everybody gets, and I feel like they're starting to recognize that now, and that's going to help them work harder for the season to come.
You mentioned the conditioning and everything, the 2-mile runs and whatnot. For you, I mean, they're against Wheaton College playing doubles and singles, and the very next day having to go on the road to Mount Holyoke and play doubles again. What was that like from your perspective? I mean, you got wins in each of those matches, but, I mean, clearly it's probably a challenge, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge, especially since I think that it would have been a little bit more challenging Friday if we were away, because I think a lot of it's very mental, Aaron. But I think that being at home on Friday really helped us get a momentum to put us in the right mindset for the Saturday match. Friday we were struggling a little bit. I think people were a little nervous, especially the freshmen going out there. So understandable. It's your first home match. I definitely had the first match jitters when I was a freshman as well. But I think I did fine. I think having the stamina that was built up from running 2 miles or 4 miles a week for the past month and a half really helped. But I think that I was able to go out there, and Isabel and I were able to move well and just be fluid and move off each other's balls. And I think that really helped and showed in results from the Mount Holyoke match on Saturday.
Well, you've got a bunch of road matches coming up. I'm looking at the schedule.
Oh, yeah.
You spend all of March away from campus, including another trip to Florida. So another chance to see some different competition. Well, what are you looking forward to this? You kind of sounds like maybe dreading it slightly.
I'm definitely I saw that too. We are away basically the whole month of March, but honestly, I think that's fine because I think that although we're away, those are going to be different surfaces that we're going to have experience playing on, and that will help us adjust when we get back to Merrill, and maybe a little bit of a transition, but I think it's going to be good because when we do finally have the opportunity to play at home in April, I think everybody's going to be excited to kind of go out and show what they have, especially since our friends and family are able to come to the home matches. So I think that's going to be good to play for them, play for ourselves. But yes, usually we go to Virginia halfway through the year, but we're going to Florida this year instead. And honestly, I think that's a better opportunity for our team because we're going to be able, although we go to Virginia and we play teams, I think Florida is going to allow us to, one, be in some warm weather, which will be good, always a good time. And we're also going to be able to train a little bit more, I think, as opposed to just playing a round robin in Virginia. We're going to have a little bit more exposure to higher level teams in Florida, and I think that'll be good for us as a team.
Excellent. Then you get to wrap up the year with, as you mentioned, some nice home matches there, including 3 in a row to end the season. But do you have any kind of goals that you've set in your mind, and has the team kind of gotten together and set any goals for this year?
Yes, we have. As I said, I think earlier in the fall, we are working really hard to make NESCAS this year. They changed the rulings for tennis as opposed to having 6 teams. It's 8 teams now. So everybody's working really hard to contribute so we can work towards that because that's the final goal, and maybe past that, maybe nationals, But I think that personally for me, I'm just working on consistency and just kind of trusting my shot because a lot of it out there, Aaron, is mental. And if you can have the best strokes, but if you're not strong mentally, it's going to break down a lot when you're playing. And I think that just comes from practice with matches and match play. And I think that's going to be really crucial, and we're going to be able to do that this past month as we're traveling over the month of March.
The men's squash team competed for the Summers Cup over the weekend at CSA Team Nationals at Harvard, defeating Colby 5-4 on Friday, following the Williams 8-1 on Saturday, and ending the weekend on a high note with a 5-4 win over the Naval Academy on Sunday. With the Bobcats down 4-3 to the midshipmen, junior Omar Attia won a dramatic 5-game match to even the score at 4-4. Senior Garen Rothenberg won his match, and Bates prevailed, finishing the season ranked 19th in the country with an overall record of 12-8. Well, Omar, against the Naval Academy, third-place match in the Summers Cup, you're down 2-0. The team is down 4-3. You're able to rally and get the 3-2 win. This is something you've done a few times in your career, but what was the experience like in particular this weekend?
I think this weekend was a bigger challenge for me than the past 2 years because this year I've been struggling with an injury in both of my legs. It's been a tough season for me coming back all of a sudden, coming back from studying abroad into the action like right away. Along with the injury, it was really tough to come back and get in the mood. I think it was more challenging than the last few times because it's just there were just more obstacles to it.
And then you ended up getting that 3-2 win. Were you able to watch Garen get his clinching victory after that?
Yes, all Garen, yeah.
What was that experience like? I mean, he's a senior. That must have been nice to see from him, right?
I was very happy for him. He really wanted that win. It's probably arguably one of his biggest wins in his career. Winning against Navy is awesome. It's a great way to end his senior year, honestly. He's been working really hard. He's been struggling for 4 years with an aching hip injury, which he was really struggling to get off of it, and he did get off of it this year, and he had an incredible season.
So both of you battling injuries. I mean, obviously injuries are a part of squash. I mean, how do you approach that in terms of training and everything? Yeah,
so it's all mental. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Go to the trainers, physical therapy, get the treatment, rest, all that stuff. But like for example, in my case, for example, it really keeps coming back every time I play, with my shins. And the thing is like at that point, I mean, in my game, when I was down 2-love, I was telling Rai, our coach, I can't do this. This is hurting. And then Rai tells me you just gotta like go through it. This is all in your head. All in your head. It doesn't matter what technical plan you use, what are you gonna think about. It's all about striving to get through it.
Well, then what, in your opinion, I mean, changed in those final 3 games that allowed you to make that comeback? When did you start to feel that you had your opponent, kind of on their heels? And obviously the 5th game was a 12-10 one.
Yeah.
So
when you look back at the game, you don't really remember everything, but I remember a lot of my team being in my corner, and it's when when moments like this is how I really push to win. It's when my teammates are there, because I do it for them, and like whenever the pressure is more, there's a lot of people looking and all that stuff, I actually play better than when there's nobody and there's like not really big pressure. I just don't like, this is just my personality when it comes to playing these games. So yeah, I think the team aspect, my teammates being behind me, is the reason why I pushed for it, and I realized like how big of a win would it be against Navy, so that's why I pushed for it as well. Great.
And then Team Nationals gives us an idea of kind of the environment, because there's different tiers. Obviously, the men were at the Summers Cup, and there's other levels both above and below, and there's so many schools. I mean, I don't think it was all at Harvard. Like, I think you guys were playing at Tufts. I mean, it's spread out a little bit. Yeah.
We played our last game at Tufts, but our first 2 matches were at Harvard.
Okay. What was that experience like being there?
It's very cool. I mean, you get to see everyone from like all the colleges in the U.S. You get to see top tier squash. You get to see like the best of the best in the country. I mean, you get to see all these players from around the world playing in just one little space, and it's just amazing how you see all the different like influences in squash. From, you have American players, you have Egyptian players, but you also have Colombian players. You have players from all over the world, and it's amazing.
You grew up in Egypt. Do you see guys you played with growing up at these events?
Yeah. A lot of the kids in other colleges, like a lot of them were from the same club as me. We basically were raised together as brothers, and it's so cool, like seeing where we came from, and then now we're here. It's pretty cool. Like, you get to see everybody now.
Studying abroad. Tell us about that experience this past fall.
Yeah, studying abroad is an amazing experience. I really liked it. I mean, did a lot of traveling, did a lot of I learned a lot. I learned a new language, which is crazy. Didn't know that I could do it, and it was nice to take time away from Bates, like get to see the world, like see new people, meet with new cultures. Of course, it did take a toll on some squash and some of my schooling here, but I don't regret it, and I'll do it all over again.
And you went to Italy, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Italy.
And so you learned Italian then, I assume? Okay. What was that process like, learning Italian?
I mean, we our program, we had to take Italian every day, and me personally, I practiced the language every day with a host family in Italy, and I practiced every day, like going to the restaurant, talking to people, going out. You get to see, once you just keep practicing what you learn at school, you learn by yourself. And obviously we were watching TV at home. Everything was in Italian. So you're basically forced to learn the language. And I personally, I did a lot of like my homework, like by myself, like extra work. I really liked the language, and I wanted to learn it.
And it sounds like there's nowhere really to play squash though in Italy. Is that
there were courts. I went there a few times, but there wasn't anybody to play with, and I think that was the challenge. Yeah. So I did miss that competitive aspect of it, and I didn't get the chance to play with someone that is as the ones like we have here at Bates. Right. And that's, I think, what really affected me. But coming back, it just took a couple of weeks to like get back in the rhythm. And
then you came back to a new head coach.
Yeah.
What was that transition like?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, me and Rai like got along really quickly. Absolutely cool guy. He's a very experienced squash player, very good squash player. I mean, it's great to learn from him like every day about the game. And I mean, it's different. I mean, going from Pat Kosker to Rai, it's a different vibe coming into squash. Two different perspectives in the game. Not necessarily one is better than the other, but we can say that I just like what's going on right now at Bates. Yeah.
Excellent. And then, so you're a junior, so senior year coming up next year. What are some goals you have in your mind in looking forward to next squash season, which will be here before we know it next fall, I guess?
Yeah, it comes back really quickly. Yeah. I want to work with what we have right now with the players. We had an amazing first years. First years coming in this year, extremely talented, a lot of potential. Our team is going to be 100% different than last year, than this year, or the years before, because we're graduating 5 seniors, which is going to change the dynamic of the whole team. And I'm not necessarily for better or for worse, but it's going to be different. And then we have to just work with me, like with the people we have. We have like the juniors, the sophomores. They're all growing. We have to work with what we have, and then we have a new freshman class coming in, and that's gonna change the whole dynamic. And I think the goals next year, it's gonna be tough because college squash every single year gets a little bit harder.
Yeah,
it's growing every year, and you gotta just catch up with the flow.
Just a few hours ago, the Bates Alpine skiing teams learned who would represent them at the NCAA Championships. The Alpine and Nordic teams combined to finish 8th out of 20 schools at the NCAA East Regional last weekend. With the regular season over, the NCAA announced that sophomore Alpine skier Arie van Vuuren and senior Nordic skiing captain Kaelyn Woods both qualified for nationals, taking place March 11 through 14 in Bozeman, Montana. It will be Van Vuuren's first trip to NCAAs and Woods' third. All right, first of all, sophomore, congratulations. NCAAs, probably new coming in today you're going to make. What's your thoughts now that it's official you're going to nationals?
Well, I'm super excited, obviously. First time. Don't really have any expectations as to my skiing out there, but I'm excited just to go out and keep skiing because it's super fun. That's about it.
Well, I think that's something that sounds like one of the keys to success is you don't set necessarily expectations. You just go in and you ski because that's what you know what you're doing, right? You don't let your mind get too clouded with anything else, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, and also in some regards, I think now there's, for me at least, I feel like there's some of the pressure has been release because now you're in and you just go and you ski and you have fun and whatever happens. So yeah, it's definitely helpful not to ski with expectations.
And then Kaelyn, for you, third time around here going to NCAAs, do you agree with Arie there? The pressure's kind of off when you actually get into nationals?
For sure. Definitely going in, I had like a lot of pressure being like the last seed to qualify, but now that I'm qualified, now that I'm in, it's just a lot of fun to go ski at nationals. Obviously, I've had results there before, but it's just kind of fun to see the competition is changing every year, so it's just kind of fun to see how you stack up against the competition, and it's just a really fun environment.
Now, I'm not too familiar with the course you're going to there in Bozeman. I understand you've been there, but you haven't skied there. Is it at elevation or anything like that? Or
yeah, it's at elevation. I mean, going out west, obviously, you're going to have to deal with the acclimation part of it for sure, but it'll be fun to see the course. I've heard it's really, really hard. There's a lot of hills, so we'll see how that all plays out.
So a lot of hills for Nordic. How does that change things for you?
I personally enjoy it. I like, especially for the longer race, the 15K Classic. I enjoy the longer, kind of more stridable hills. So hopefully that all is, hopefully the weather is good and we can hit the wax and just have fun, enjoy 15K of skiing, and yeah.
And then Arie, we talked about this before. It doesn't really matter what mountain on. The course for you is going to be the same no matter what, right?
The hill itself, I've never skied out at Bridger Bowl, but I have heard it's slightly flat, which is not an advantage for me, but that's fine. I'll work with it.
Why do you thrive more on a steeper hill?
Just technically, for me at least, if it's dead flat and I'm in a tuck, it's one of my weaknesses in skiing.
Gotcha. Okay, so something very specific.
Yeah, it's something very specific.
Is there anything you can do between now and when you go to Montana to work on that, or is that just kind of like something you know that you have to watch out for?
I mean, I'm definitely going to spend a lot of time free skiing on flats, just trying to figure it out before then, but besides that, no, not really.
And then, Kaelyn, what have you learned from your last two experiences going to nationals? And even though it's a different event than Arie, what kind of advice would you give him?
I mean, it's just like a really, really fun experience, especially the first time. You don't really have, obviously, those expectations. And even going back, like, I have not too many expectations for myself as well because the fields are always changing and you don't really know what you're going to get. But just to kind of just enjoy it and be around and ski with people that you haven't necessarily gotten to ski with throughout the season so far, because you have the West obviously out there as well. So just kind of being able to enjoy that. Also, like, Bozeman is a beautiful place, so just being able to enjoy that as well.
Arie, I'm curious, you grew up in Colorado. Are you going to see some folks you grew up skiing with here at nationals? Or
yeah, there will be a couple of them that I know. A couple ski for Denver and CU, and there was one that skied for Alaska, but he's injured this year. So, but yeah, I'll definitely see some people that I know out there, which will be fun.
You know, Kaelyn, the NCAA East Regional, the Middlebury Carnival there over the weekend seems like another strong event for the Bobcats for both Nordic and Alpine. But what was it like for you knowing that was going to be your final carnival? And were you nervous at all about nationals? Because you mentioned before it was kind of bubble for you, right?
Yeah. This past weekend was definitely a whirlwind, especially I have been sick the past week or so, but I know I needed to race just to kind of solidify my spot for nationals, but also for a lot of other reasons, one of them obviously being that it was my last carnival, which was it was sad and exciting all at the same time. So it was fun to race, but now it's time to recover and get to Bozeman and get healthy again. So yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Arie, how about for the Alpine team? It seemed like the team finished pretty strong there, right?
At the end, it was kind of all or nothing for a bunch of us. So. Right.
And did you get that sense for yourself, or do you feel pretty comfortable kind of coming in individually at least?
No, I was not comfortable at all. I was having a slight panic attack for most of the weekend, but it worked out, so it's fine.
So when did you first start feeling less panicky, I guess?
After the race was over on Saturday.
Did McKell
everything was done. That's when I wasn't panicking, yes.
Did McKell tell you you're good, or how'd that go?
Well, it was actually because I didn't ski so well first run in the GS, and so I was at the start when all top 30 had gone, and that was dependent on if I went or not. So before I even went down my second run, I got the call that we were fine.
Oh, wow. It's between runs. So that must have felt nice going down the hill there for the second time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it felt a lot better. I wasn't panicking then, so that was nice.
Kaelyn, I mean, Nordic's a little bit different, but how would you feel if you heard it right before a run?
That's a lot. That would be really stressful, but I was kind of in the same position going into the 15K race on Saturday. I kind of knew what I needed to do, and I also knew the people. It was a mass start, so we were all starting together. So I got ahead of the people that I needed to, and that was kind of it. But at the same time, there is always the possibility that people sneak in front of you that you weren't really expecting, and then it's kind of just like a wild card. And so finishing, I was definitely panicking at first, and there was a lot of emotions because it was also my last carnival race. And so I kind of had to just take a deep breath. And when I went into the trailer, immediately after the race, and just kind of James and Becky just started crunching numbers for me because they we finish and that's where everyone is. And so you know how many points you get. And so Becky and James just started crunching the numbers. And 5 minutes later, they were like, "You're in. It's okay." And I was like, it was a huge weight of relief. And I could kind of then go and enjoy the last carnival and kind of enjoy that with everyone that I've, spent 4 years on the circuit with. But before that, I was so nervous and just kind of like, oh, God, I don't know what's going to happen.
For NCAAs, you get to watch the other competition, I imagine, right?
This year, it's like Alpine is Wednesday, Friday, and then Nordic is the Thursday, Saturday. So, yeah, you get to go watch. It's really fun. A lot of teams show up and watch their respective other teams race, so that's really fun. Yeah.
Great. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share with us about, Arie, for you, you're most looking forward to about your first trip to nationals here?
Free skiing. No, I mean it's I'm super excited. I think obviously having it in Montana makes it quite a bit better. But no, I'm just really looking forward to skiing and enjoying it and taking a week off school. I didn't say that.
Kaelyn, how about you?
Yeah, everything Arie said, obviously. I think just being able to kind of enjoy my last 2 races as a collegiate athlete in a lot of senses. So just kind of enjoying that and being around people that I've competed with for a long time now, and getting to represent Bates again for a third year is also really fun, and also having it be in Bozeman and getting to travel out there and do all that fun stuff is always an added bonus.
All right, Kaelyn Woods, Arie Van Vuuren, congrats again on qualifying for NCAAs.
Thank you.
This Sunday, the softball team begins the 2020 season in Florida with 12 games in 7 days. Head coach McKell Barnes is confident about the team's chances this year, starting with senior captain and 2019 first-team All-NESCAC pitcher Kirsten Pelletier in the circle.
We're very, very lucky to have 2 awesome seniors who are tremendous leaders, have been since their first year, now through senior year. KP obviously being the workhorse on the mound the last 3 years, and now going on 4. Certainly, looking for her to raise her level of play and put us in a position to win as many games as we can. All NESCAC first team last year, and we're looking to continue to build on that and to get better every day. So we're pretty lucky there.
Touched on 2 seniors. She's a captain along with Julia Panapinto. Their leadership, obviously, very strong. Tell us about what they bring the team from that perspective.
They are 2 of the best women leaders that we have here on campus. And they're very different. They lead in very different ways, but they always find common ground to be able to lead together as well, which is really unique. Julia is this hard, tough presence in terms of she's going to give you everything that she has, and she expects the same out of her teammates. She's very good communicating. She expects a lot, has high expectations for herself and her teammates. She's someone who you want on your team, whatever team that is. It could be any sport. That Julia Panapinto is someone that you want on your team. Couple that with KP. KP, being a pitcher sometimes is in that lens of pitching and kind of stays in that realm. But outside of games, she's really challenged herself to step outside of that space as well. And off the field, she's a really tremendous liaison, and she's kind, she's compassionate with her teammates. She also pushes them. She's positive. She's goofy and quirky, but I think really embraces that and provides this fun atmosphere as well. And she's fun to be around. They're both tremendous and beyond thankful.
And Julia, the power started to really arrive last year, it seemed like, right?
Oh, yeah. Julia is tremendously strong. Julia is, just blows your mind how strong she is. We saw some sparks of that last year, and we've implemented a new hitting program this year that we're hoping finds more consistency, not just for Julia, but for our entire team. Really trying to generate some good power from our backside using our hips, and Julia's really, we find her ball exit speed, not to get too technical here, but it is just makes you just shake your head and be like, what is going on here? Because it's super, super impressive. So hopefully this year finding more consistency with that. And, she had sparks of some power last year and certainly looking to build on that this year.
Sounds like maybe the launch angle revolution coming to softball a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. The baseball-softball swing is not any different. So a little bit, we talk a little bit about launch angle, but it's just really, trusting your hips and letting your hips do the work, getting obviously good angle on your barrel coming through the zone and I guess the perfect degree angle to hit the ball, they say, is 17 degrees. So, not that we measure that, but it's such a cool sport. There's so many different nuances and science, and to be able to really hone in on that, we're lucky to have student athletes here who are super, super intelligent, very inquisitive, and really dive deep into some of the science behind it.
And then the double play combination, Kennedy there at shortstop and then Janelle at second base. They were, I believe, teammates in high school, right? Correct. And so now they're teammates here again, and it seems like they developed pretty good chemistry last year.
And they're roommates as well.
There
so, they really have. They are both hardworking, committed to their craft, always trying to get better. Just willing to do whatever they can to go just beyond the routine plays. Janelle new at second base. We're trying to find a way to keep her bat in the lineup, but she has really, really blossomed, and I think we're seeing some confidence this year that we didn't see last year, which is natural, having never played second base before, and she's flourishing. With that said, Kennedy on the other side at shortstop, unreal athlete, just absolutely unreal. She's making plays that just are crazy, that you see on ESPN with Sis Bates at Washington University. She's really, really impressive to watch. And from a softball perspective, and a fan of the sport, it's really fun. I told her this. It's really fun to be able to sit back and say, wow, look at this person just execute their craft and play really well, and they're excited to watch, and it's even more exciting that I get to coach them.
Excellent. And, speaking of that double play combination, Emily Samar, who started last year at second base, if I recall, ended up being the catcher last season. What does she bring to the table defensively behind the plate that makes her so effective?
Emily is, I think the trust that we have in Emily behind the plate is immeasurable. She is, the way she receives the ball, I bet you she gives our pitchers probably 10 to 15 extra strikes a game. She just has this fluid rhythm behind the plate with how she receives. It's really special to watch. She's quick on her feet. Her arm is very strong. And I think one thing too that we're seeing this development take place, as I mentioned with Janelle and Kennedy with their confidence, but Emily too has taken it to the next level. And we're super excited to see how that transitions to, her time this spring.
At first base, Eliza McNulty showed some flashes of power late in the season last year. That's got to be encouraging entering this season, right?
Definitely. I want to say, if I were to pull up the stats from last year, Eliza's maybe last 11 at-bats or 12 at-bats, she went 12 for 12 with I think maybe 3 home runs, obviously a big home run against Williams in the playoffs. And she really just hit her stride and was peaking at the right time. It was super awesome to watch. And so to see that, I think to end on that note for her was a really, really positive thing. She put in a ton of work throughout the season, and I think to finally see it come to fruition was really, really encouraging for her. And she's picked up right where she's left off, in practice and in our scrimmages. Our lineup is tough this year. It's really, really tough.
Well, speaking of the lineup, the top of the lineup, Caroline Bass, center fielder, moved from left to center last year, kind of midway through the season. She had a good year last year. It wasn't like the previous year, though, so it's well, how do you measure what she's going to try to do now entering her junior season?
Right. So this is a conversation we often have because Caroline's first year was insane.
Right.
Led the NESCAC in batting average as a first year and, nearly hit 500, just below 500. And it's really hard to mimic that many years. And now teams are game planning for her. Her speed is game changing. And so teams know that. They game plan for her. So it's supposed to get harder. Mm-hmm. And albeit last year, from an average standpoint, dipped down a little bit. some things that we've been seeing this year have been really, really impressive. She is, I've got to say, probably one of the toughest outs in the lineup, not just in our lineup, but across the board in the NESCAC. She sees the ball really well. We've integrated a few different slapping techniques that she's really put the time in and the work in to add to her toolbox, and she's going to be impressive to watch this year.
And then that's the one spot in the outfield where you do have to replace someone with Dre Russo having graduated the lone senior last season. So tell us about the other two outfield spots.
Sure. So Aaliyah Pagan will return, and Aaliyah probably has the fastest hands. She reads the ball really well. She tracks the ball really well defensively. Offensively, like I said, her hands, she probably has the fastest hands. Now we're just trying to get her hips to catch up to her hands so that she's hitting for a little bit more power. So we'll see her move down in the lineup a little bit, which gives us that speed in the middle of the lineup. And we'll push Kennedy to that number 2 hole, which will be nice to have that Caroline Kennedy back-to-back presence at the top of our lineup. So Aaliyah is really strong. We're excited for her to come on and really fill big shoes, and I think she's ready for it. In left field, we have Amanda Taylor, who's a first year, slated to start for us. Amanda is more utility. She hasn't played a ton of outfield, but she just has a knack for the ball. She's a gamer. Her swing's a little bit more unorthodox, but it works. And so if it's not broke, not a lot to fix. So she just, she's been making steady contact with the ball. She's been hitting it hard. And she just really, she knows the game well. She's a student of the game, so we trust her out there.
And then you have some good depth with like Mary Collette, designated player type. She can come in and catch if you need her. She can play first base. She can do a lot, right?
Oh, yeah. Mary's kind of a Jack or maybe a Jill of all trades, right? Can catch, can play some first. She hits the ball really well. We're really looking for her to fill some big shoes. We need more power out of her. We need more consistency out of her, and I think she's ready for the challenge.
And then, we mentioned KP, of course, first team All-NESCAC pitcher. Softball, you can win with one pitcher, but it's a lot easier to win if you have, 2 or 3 solid pitchers, right? So Peyton Buxton, Jeevan Sandhu, what do you see their roles this year?
Yeah, Peyton, Jeevan, and Danielle will fill the rest of our bullpen. Peyton, we have brought on a new assistant coach, Jesse Hutchins, who's filling this pitching coach position, which is something our team really needed, and we're really excited to have her on board. And we've seen so much growth and development with our pitchers, and I think they're really trusting their craft a lot more. And I think all 3 of them, Peyton in particular, has really shown some really great promise. I know she had flashes of it her first year, struggled some last year, but she had a game against Bowdoin at the end of the season, and at the end of the game, she comes up to me. She's like, "Coach, I don't know why I didn't do that all season." I'm like, "I don't know why either, Peyton," but here we are. So, but no, for real, she's really special pitcher to watch, and in fact, her motion is probably the most natural motion that we have on our team. So having Coach Jesse come in and work with her and work with all the pitchers in particular has been really, really fruitful. Jeevan and Danielle, we're looking for them to fill in some middle innings, maybe some closing. We lost a lot of games last year. In fact, nearly half of our games we lost in the 7th inning or in extra innings. And so I think to find, an opportunity to maybe mix up what we're throwing with different pitchers will help put us in a better position to win some of those games.
And you'll get to see all of them do a lot of work, I'm sure, in Florida. That's an opportunity. The Florida trip is interesting because you get to experiment a little bit because they're non-conference games, but also you want to set the tone, right? Like you did 2 years ago in terms of like a winning record.
Oh, yeah. I mean, reality is we play a third of our season in Florida, which is crazy. Yeah. It's an intense week. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of preparation. There's certainly some things that we can never prepare for, but we'll just be ready to tackle when they do come. So yeah, we try to find our groove. We've mixed up our scrimmages leading into Florida to hopefully build a little bit better chemistry than what we did last year, where we didn't do that, and we had a harder time finding that chemistry when we got down there. So this year, I think that we have done that, and I feel really, really confident that Florida. We're as prepared as we can be, and now we just have to execute and do what we're capable of doing.
Next time on the Bates Bobcast, we'll talk about who's going to NCAAs in track and field, plus how select Bates squash players perform at this weekend's individual nationals. And we'll talk softball, baseball, and lacrosse after an action-packed week. All that and more next time on the Bates Bobcast.